Have you ever noticed how objects in the far-off distance appear to be blurry while objects closer to you don't? It's a natural phenomena known as depth of field. It happens each and every day in the real world, but it doesn't typically occur when creating something on the computer. You see, when you build a scene in 3D, no matter how far away something is from the camera, it always appears to be in focus, irrespective of how far something might be away from the camera. Luckily, Max has a setting you can use to create that depth of field effect. Controls that will show you how to both use and set up in this video. Now, before we do that, it's important that you don't underestimate how essential that in focus or out of focus thing is. Studies have actually shown that people have a tendency to focus on areas of clarity and not on areas that are somewhat fuzzy or blurred out. In fact, a viewer's eye has a tendency to aimlessly wander around a scene if not given a specific area or object to focus on. And that typically translates to mean that they've missed something within the shot, which is never a good thing. So you can use depth of field to actually steer an individual's attention to where you want them to look. We'll set that up using a file named depth of field. Now, so you know, I've frozen everything in the scene other than the target on the camera. That'll just make it a little easier when we get to selecting that target. If you're at all unclear on what I mean by freezing, you can check out the video on hiding and freezing a little earlier in this title. Let's render the camera view to get things started. You can do that by hitting the teapot on the far right-hand side of the toolbar, or simply using the keyboard shortcut Shift-Q. As you can see, everything is in focus, irrespective of the distance it might be away from the camera. We'll change that by activating the depth of field. Let's close the render window, then hit H to activate the Select by Name list. From here, we can select our camera. Now the name is grayed out because it's been frozen. It can still, though, be selected when using the Select by Name dialog. So go ahead and just click on Camera 01. Now, to get to the depth of field settings, we'll want to go in the Modify column over on the right-hand side command panel. The settings we're looking for are a little bit lower than what we can see, so we'll let the cursor turn into a hand and then push it up. What we're specifically looking for is a category named Multi-Pass Effect. Below that, you'll see the name Depth of Field. All we simply have to do to turn it on is to click on the Enable button. Okay, let's go ahead and render again. Now, what you see are little partial or mini renders called passes. Each pass then being added together to create one final image with that depth of field effect. Now, the total number of passes that the render went through is controlled in the sampling section over on the right-hand side menu. You can see that by default, Max went through 12 total passes. That's probably a little more than we need. Let's see if we can't lower that number a little. Highlight the 12 value to the right of total passes and type in 5. We can now render again, and you can see, even with using a few less passes, we still end up with pretty much the same result. Plus, we've saved ourselves a little render time. Now, is there a way to somehow control what part of the scene renders as blurry? Maybe we instead would like it to be fuzzy more toward the front. Well, get this, it's actually the camera's target position that controls the location of the scene that's most in focus. You'll see that in the focal depth category again on the right. So let's do this. If it's indeed the target position that controls what area is most clear, let's see what happens if we move that target back to the lynda.com logo at the rear part of our scene. Close the rendered window, activate the left view, and select the target. We can now right-click to go to the Move command, and then grab the left stick, pulling the target back to the logo on the far left side of the left view. Let's again activate the camera view and render. So check that out. Again, 5 render passes, but now it's the back part of the scene that's in focus. Let's undo that, then take the camera view full screen so I can show you a really cool feature on the depth of field controls. Now, we want to go back and make sure it's the camera that's selected. This time to make the selection, I'll simply click on the plus sign in the upper left-hand corner of the window. Once I've done that, I'll click on Select Camera. Okay, back in the Modify column, directly to the right of the Enable button, you'll see a button that says Preview. Go ahead and click that. Now, this is pretty cool. It creates a blurring effect directly inside the viewport, which is nice and saving time sometimes when setting things up. Now, you might have seen a movie or TV show where it appears the area in focus is actually changing over the course of the shot, having maybe the front of the scene in focus in the beginning, then changing that area of focus to the back of the scene over a period of time. That animated blurring effect is typically referred to as pulling focus, and can be accomplished in Max by simply keyframing the position of the camera's target over time. Kind of cool how that works. So that's the depth of field. Remember why it's important and be sure to use it in your own work.